It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we move into a Wednesday, Gary, what's happening?
We're just busy.
I know.
The show's getting in the way, as always.
Right. You guys listen to some Christmas music or something. We're busy. We got things going on. Yeah. Yeah, what a day. It's what's interesting here as the Trump picks, come together. You and I were talking about, all right, what are going to be some of the confirmation hurdles? First of all, you got 53 seats coming in the Senate for the GOP. But Pete Hegseth at Fox News for Defense Secretary is because of the whole Fox News Association is probably going to be one of those where the Democrats are going to fight a little bit harder. Then again, does the mandate change the nature of that fight? Do they just do their typical, well, I don't know, we don't need a Fox News, blah, 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 agenda, blah, 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 as their DEI agenda, is hard at work on the left through every single cabinet pick of the liberals over the years, and we've seen that. They finally came out and had a climate czar, John Kerry. But, the reason he stepped down as climate czar is because they didn't need one. Everybody else in the cabinet was a climate czar. Think about that. What were they all, pushing? Well, because of climate change, because of climate change, because of climate change, because of climate change. And John Kerry looked around and, I guess I'm not needed. They didn't actually need that position of climate czar. But it's coming together for Trump, and 53 seats in the Senate for the GOP will certainly make it a lot easier. But again, you're going to have an uphill battle. Hegseth may not. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not as difficult or cumbersome. I'll use that word as I suspect it might be.
Look, I think this is for me. It's quite simple because when I woke up is when I saw his name, and I'm like, oh, the guy that does the weekends on Fox,
right?
And then you see his history,
right? Yeah.
Graduate of Princeton and Harvard.
Yeah. Yeah.
After 9/11, Princeton and Harvard graduate. Volunteered for the infantry.
Yeah.
Was in the military a significant amount of time. And if you've seen any of the interviews that he has done, there's one interview that's out there. And he was asked specifically, if Trump wins, what should Trump do?
Right.
And he said, fire any general, fire anybody, fire the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and any general that was involved in DEI or critical race theory inside the military.
Right.
You and I were having a discussion before the show. And I agree with National Review. It was John Noonan wrote a column. Peter Hegseth is a disruptive choice for Secretary of Defense. That's a good thing. Here it is. There is a rot in the Pentagon that is deeply entrenched. It requires an unconventional pick, youthful energy, and a keen understanding of Congress and Washington to refocus itself back to the national defense of the United States. Think about this. Think about the Lloyd Austin, for example, and what he allowed in there. Now, he allowed it in there because that's what the president wanted. The president wanted DEI.
Yeah.
Remember, Lloyd Austin. Where is he?
Exactly.
Think about how amateurish that is.
Right.
When you look at any pick that Trump is making, and I know there's a danger in doing this because the picks were so horrendous in the Biden administration, so horrendous that you might be able to just leave those positions vacant for a month or two, and the country would be much better off.
Right.
That's how bad it was.
Well, I mean, that's what Austin did. It wasn't for a month, but it was way too long leaving that position vacant and not telling anybody. I mean, we pretty much got to that point.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but when you see what they have done to the military, with the DEI, and think about this, teaching racism. That's what they're teaching racism inside the military.
Yeah.
I have no problem. For example, in the military, if you're talking about, any of the elite institutions for the military, if they teach you different concepts that are out there that they reject.
Yeah.
Because I want smart officers in there. So if they
right.
teach and they go, well, this critical race theory exists that trying to make the point that, whites are culturally racist to the point where you can't get rid of it no matter what. So all of society, including the military, must be set up that all whites are racist. You reject that absolutely immediately, and there is no more important department than the Department of Defense.
Right.
Everything else is secondary, because if they can't do their job, nothing else. It's the same thing we said about the weaponization of government.
Right.
You weaponize the government, you become a banana republic where you go after successfully, where you can, I'm not saying they have been successful, but where you can successfully go after. They were successful in part of it. They haven't stopped the opposition because of it. That's where they weren't successful. But this is how far the other side will go. And so, sorry, I'm fine with it until I'm not fine with it. Until if he gets now getting approved by the House now, or the House, by the Senate, you said 53. Odds are it should be a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Because the only thing they're going to have, from what I know, against him is he's been divorced.
Yeah.
And that's got nothing to do with it, as we all know.
Right.
But they're going to. I'm just telling you what they're going to bring up. He's divorced. He apparently had an affair. And what was he? Oh, and he works at Fox News.
Yeah, Fox News is the one that just it's like for the left, it's going to we don't need to, and they'll focus on that. They'll
right.
A number of them will. But when you focus on his service, when you focus on his ability to do this, and I agree with the assessment, you need the non-traditional approach here, because I don't know how you go in and weed out all of the rot. It could be an impossible task if you're talking 100%, except that you set the tone. This is not going to be tolerated. This is not your agenda. You don't get to come in and fulfill your agenda in any role in government, whether it's a cabinet position or anyone in the downstream from that cabinet position. This is one of the things that Trump ran into, I think, with cabinet positions, or anybody who was hired potentially in his first term. You had them, we learned very quickly of agendas. John Bolton had his agenda. He came in with, it was very clear, his agenda. They come in with this, well, I'm going to save the world from Trump attitude. And they could be on the left, and in the past, some of them were, well, they said they were on the right. But the fact of the matter is,
he wasn't a cabinet position, though.
No, I know.
Right.
And I said, anyone hired,
okay.
In that process. They thought they were going to save the world from Trump.
Right.
They thought they were, let me come in, I'll take over. Look, you have these roles. National security advisor in the case of Bolton. We've made the point, and I think we're right, national security advisor, you're closer to the president than the vice president.
Mm-hmm.
That if there's an inner circle that only has, and there's only room for two people, it's the president and national security advisor.
Well, that's because you're looking at Biden and Harris, and then Obama and Biden.
Exactly. Well, you do have a point. Maybe that's how I came to that conclusion in the back of my mind.
I just wanted to inject the evidence that exists.
Instead of qualifiers, it was disqualifiers. But That's a solid point. But those are the things you have to consider coming in. For Bolton, for me, it was about. I do believe it was about his agenda, but I also believe in the back of his mind he had a book deal. That maybe it officially wasn't in the works, but in his mind, that's what he was aiming for. I had never seen him smile ever until he got until his book was released. And he released his book while Trump was still in office. These are the concerns that I have. It's not like years down the road, hey, here was my experience. You undermine, as national security advisor, you undermine the integrity of the office itself. Whether you respect the individual or not, you have to respect the office. And to me, I thought that was reprehensible. But you look at all of those things, and then, of course, that's even before we get to people on the left that are in positions. And they may be in the downstream of, maybe somebody who works in the office for one of the cabinet positions. It could be, in any role in government, really. But if you have any authority to make any decision with that authority at any point, that becomes problematic. And I think Hegseth is probably the indication to first of all his qualifications, but also it can be an indication to the rest of us that this isn't going to be a traditional approach on every level.
Well, this qualification stuff is now that I have attained a certain age, and
you attained it, did you?
Yeah. So now that I have, okay,
didn't just happen with time. No.
Now that I have happened to a certain age, what comes with that certain age is what they label as wisdom. I view it as all the dumb decisions and wrong things that I have thought of my entire life, which has brought me to the conclusion of what might be better.
Exactly.
Maybe I should just say wisdom. It sounds better.
Well,
wisdom is wisdom. Okay, it all comes from wisdom. No, everything comes from analyzing and looking at what has happened.
Yeah.
Think about the rot that exists. Think about the weaponization of government. Think about the damn thing that you had to have FBI agents, whistleblowers, come forward and say it's wrong that a man sexually assaulted a woman, a girl, in a bathroom at a school. Mm-hmm. The school board attempted to hide it. The parents came in furious, and the Department of Justice sent the FBI to take the license plate numbers of parents that were upset about it. Yeah. When you understand that that's the rot that exists, when you see the FEMA supervisor, she came, and we'll have that coming up here in a little bit. She came out and said, "Oh no, this wasn't us. This is commonplace. This is what we're doing."
Yeah.
When it comes to helping people,
yeah.
Can you imagine that? Can you imagine being in a position that your job is to help people in a national? Forget about a national emergency. Both you and I were scouts, Boy Scouts.
Yeah. Yep.
It doesn't matter who needs my help.
No.
Somebody needs my help, I'm there to help them no matter what.
I don't qualify for FEMA.
Right.
I don't qualify people based on what they believe.
If my neighbor had a Harris Wald sign and they're out front and their car won't start, I've got my nice lithium-ion battery, the nice compact one that's really cool to put, I'll give them a jump start like that.
Yeah.
They need a tire. That's how I was brought up. That is an absolute, there is no debate on that in my mind.
No.
And I will say, being raised how I was raised, and Boy Scouts, especially Boy Scouts, really push that into me. No matter, I don't care who it is. Somebody needs help. There's an emergency. I'm there to help. That's an obligation that I have. You can say part of it may have to do with with my faith, but it's the overall. It's everything that I was brought up in. But you're telling me that in a damn national emergency in a hurricane, you're saying they have signs out there, we're not going to help them? Go to hell.
Yeah.
That's the kind of rot, the filthy rot that exists in government today, and you've got to do some unconventional things if you're going to get it away. And I don't know necessarily you're going to hear unconventional. I don't think in the situation he's unconventional at all. I'll judge him by what he does when he gets into office. He may not be successful.
Right.
It may be too deep to do it in 4 years when you see how deep the stinking filthy rot is in our intelligence agencies, in the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
Now we know in FEMA, in the Department of Defense, the military. It's all across the board, and you've got to do drastic things to stop it.
Well, and it's part of the big. It's a huge part of why you and I both really had that as the primary reason for voting. There was I was tired of seeing people in pain, but what scared me more was a government that had put into place a practice that will come after you if we find any reason. We'll refuse to help you, FEMA, if we see any reason that you have dissent from our side. This, to me, is the most dangerous mindset. It is the most dangerous mindset. And that is what we've been dealing with now for years. And I don't know, but you have to get in and you have to fight it. You have to set a tone. And I think Hegseth is one of those indications that tone is going to be absolutely set.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Cold temperatures and water can lead to only one outcome, and ice has no place in the truck's air system. That's why it's crucial to keep your air system moisture-free as the temperatures begin to drop. Make sure your air system is in top condition before plunging temperatures put it to the test. In addition to changing your air dryer desiccant cartridge and draining your air tanks, make sure that no alterations have been made to the air compressor discharge line. This can dramatically increase the amount of moisture in the air system. Lastly, have a professional technician check the condition of your air dryer heater, purge valve, and check valve.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And the other thing about Hegseth and anybody else, I think the majority of who Trump has brought forward now to be part of his administration is you've got to be able to communicate the ideas effectively.
Yeah.
And that's one of the important things, because you're going to have you've already seen it, whether it's what's his name? Oh, from New York, the one congressman, the Democrat one. Oh, the guy who's an idiot who hurt himself, who actually hurt Goldman. Goldman.
Right.
They're bringing a Fox News person in there.
Mm-hmm.
You need to attack that. You need to talk about the fact that we need to get DEI and critical race theory out of it. You need to talk about the woke military.
Yeah.
And if you talk about the woke military, that's how you win.
Right.
And all these people need to communicate effectively, because communication effectively of the issues is what got Trump elected president of the United States. And you can continue it. And Trump getting great surrogates who know how to use the best debate points in order to win the argument.
Right.
And that's what it's all about. It's selling an argument to the people. It's
Right.
all marketing.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with marketing good ideas,
Right.
and there's nothing about attacking bad ideas, negative marketing, going after and say, this stinks. And so I have really, until they give me a reason to be critical, because of the situation we're in this country, I might view it differently if it was normal times.
Yeah, right, yeah. Maybe.
But we're not in normal times right now.
No,
we're in
not.
times we've never seen before.
Yep.
We'll talk more coming up. Well, of course we'll talk more. We're a talk show.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Bring that up, what you just said there, because I've gotten a couple of emails on that, and I've responded to people and messages.
Because yesterday I got a Fox News alert. I got my from the app. I got a push notification, and it said Republicans still fighting to gain control of the House. And I said, no, they're not. You've had multiple media outlets call it, and Fox News hasn't called it. Still, I'm at foxnews.com. They've got the count at 216. RCP has it at 219.
Right.
So, again, I don't know why there's that difference. I don't know why Fox News hasn't called it yet. Not sure.
I didn't check anything else yesterday. Oh, thehill.com called it 2 days ago.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's been
Hill.com call. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Hill.com. And what do you call it? Not election desk. What is it? Election desk.
Yeah, it's a election HQ, right?
Yeah, I forgot what it's called.
Yeah.
Decision desk.
Decision
HQ.
desk.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
News Nation had it too. Republicans win control of the U.S. House of Representatives. That was yesterday, and it's just like Trump. Fox is making it sound like it's there's this anticipation, and I don't see, and nobody's talked about the fact that there's a difference of opinion.
Yeah.
And what would that difference of opinion? Now, remember now, you had News Nation, which was one of the first to call the election. Mm-hmm. Decision Desk HQ, one of the first to call the election. All stating that the House is Republican. You know what? You're one of the things. It's like Mike Johnson did. Could you please stop picking Trump? Could you please stop picking people from the House right now? Don't pick any more. Yeah.
I wondered if that was going to be a problem. Yeah. Like, hold on. You look at that, and the balance is key. I mean, people have asked about Rubio. Rubio's not up for re-election until 28. But you...
Yeah, I don't think they're worried about the Senate. They're worried about the House.
No.
Yeah.
But, I mean, immediately it was, hold on a second. They just now won the Senate back, but why are they... No, hold on. That'll all work out. You'll have a Republican in that seat. That's not going to be a concern. But you do want the House right now because that's a much more delicate balance. And I don't know if Fox News is waiting for recounts. I don't know what they're waiting on. I can't tell you. I mean, I honestly don't. I don't know why so many are calling it and they're not.
Yeah.
So for the House. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. But yeah, because that was actually part of it, of the Fox News story was, Mike Johnson and Jeffries are waiting to see who will be Speaker of the House. I'm like, no, it's already been called. This is yesterday morning. It's like, no, you had a number of media groups, not multimedia, but a number of media groups that have called it. And I'm not sure why Fox News hasn't.
Yeah, it's interesting. And, and you would think that they would tell you why, because I would. We're not calling it because if that's the business that I was in, I didn't. We didn't call it because this, and this.
Right.
And you don't see it. It's almost if they all ignore each other.
Right.
So,
yeah. No. I mean, that's exactly it. Yeah.
All right. I want to play this audio cut, and I have not listened to it, but it came up, and I cannot help not playing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And here it is.
All right.
And it says on X, Scott Jennings on CNN just went scorched earth on Carl Bernstein and the CNN panel defending Pete Hegseth and going after current Pentagon leadership over their disastrous record. So I couldn't wait for that one.
All right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Right.
Am I right?
No,
it just came up in my feed from last night.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, got to play this one.
Got to have it.
All right.
All right, here we go.
And it's a surprise because I'm sure he'll make a good argument. All right, here we go.
You want to have confidence in the current leadership of the Pentagon and the way the defense situation has been operating for the last several years. I mean, from the Afghanistan pullout, which was an extreme debacle for which no one was held accountable. We've had spy balloons flying over the United States. We built a $300 million pier as a public relations stunt, which wound up killing an American service member. I'd say I've had just about enough of the so-called insiders running the Defense Department. I think we ought to give Pete Hegseth a chance
because he's got two insiders.
All the criticism of him is that he's not the expected Washington pick, and I'm just saying to you that the American people just voted against the expected Washington pick. So he's got 20 years in service, Afghanistan, Iraq, 2 Bronze Stars, Princeton, Harvard. Yeah, he's on TV, but so are the rest of us.
By the way, that list
I think he ought
that
to
list
be
you just gave is really interesting because you highlighted a bunch of things that the civilian leadership of the country decided on. In the military, their job was just to execute. They execute.
How did it go?
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
How did it go?
In terms of the decision making, you're assigning decision making responsibility to the military over things that civilians were responsible for.
So you make a good point. The civilian leadership made decisions, and then the people they put in charge of the Pentagon carried it out. And it was all pretty much a disaster. So now we have a new president who I think got elected in part because of some of those disasters, and he's going to put in some of the non-insiders in charge of not just this agency, but a bunch of them. Now, look, they've got to perform. They've got to perform. I mean, we got.
Well, of course, they've got to perform. I mean, good God, we know that.
Right.
But why not?
Right.
And you see and I want to say this: it's not just the civilian leadership. You have some of those generals that agree with the rot.
Yeah.
They agree with it.
Yeah, they do. Yep.
And if they don't, they needed to make that clear when they went before Congress a number of times.
Mm-hmm.
We disagree with the leadership on this, but our job is to do what we need to do. I would do that.
Yeah, right.
If I was in the military and you put in DEI and critical race theory, something that would be absolutely disrupting to the cohesiveness that you need to operate a lethal killing machine, because that's what the military is.
Yep.
Oh, well, I'm comfortable with that one. Oh, God, I can't believe that's what it is.
It's why you have the training.
To quote Joe Scarborough, deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what it is. And you're talking about it's not an experiment in wokeness. It's not an experiment in let's test these theories out and see in the military if we start teaching them to be racist, if that works out right.
Right.
Because that's what critical race theory is. It's racism.
Well, and then you have everybody, in fact, the left. We've already seen what has happened here. They have money allocated for certain things, and they can't start a project because of DEI.
Yeah.
In the military, that will cost lives. You can't hesitate.
Yep.
You can't flinch.
Yep.
You're going to have people second-guessing every single move, every word of every single move, to the point that you won't be able to make a decision.
Yeah, the only thing they really have on him, he's young.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at it, you go, well, as soon as I woke up, boy, I saw my name all over the place. Because Secretary of Defense during the Kennedy administration, Robert McNamara, came up.
Yeah.
Now, as you know, for people that were alive at that time and the whole Vietnam debacle, he gets a ton of blame. But it wasn't brought up for that. It was brought up the fact that, well, yeah, he served in the military a little bit, but he wasn't, for example, in any combat role. He was more in and when he got hired by Ford after he was in the military
right.
in World War II, he was more about systems operations behind the scenes.
Right.
He wasn't really involved in any type of the military planning or whatever.
Right.
And when he came out, then he got hired. One of the, I can't remember the other general's name, hired him and a group of other people to help Ford, but they were involved in systems management. And then he became Secretary of Defense.
Right.
And so it's like, one of the Secretary of Navy during the Reagan administration was 38.
Yeah.
So right. you have youth, and you have what? Youth and
Fox News.
Fox News.
Yeah, that's their problem with it. Those are their two big issues with them.
Well, this whole thing, this qualification stuff, for God's sakes, we have somebody who doesn't know what's going on as the president of the United States.
Yeah, as the commander-in-chief.
As
the one who gives the orders.
Right.
To all of them.
And the person that you wanted, Harris, to be president on your is completely and totally clueless on everything.
Right. And when Biden says on Thanksgiving Day, we like to go out and toss the football, you're hoping it's not the nuclear football.
Yeah. I mean, so let's just stop that. Well, too young and unqualified. What makes you unqualified? You work for Fox. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. You have an opinion.
Sorry. Trump is picking people that agree with him that are partisan.
Yeah.
They're all unqualified because of that.
Yeah.
Well, because we know that in the Biden administration, they picked all Trump supporters to be on their cabinet.
His entire cabinet will be MAGA. That's how it all works. That's exactly how it works.
This is an opportunity, really, during all the advice and consent hearings that we're going to have. This is where all of them can effectively communicate the insanity of the Democrats. And the Democrats, in order to make their point, have to be insane because that's where they stand on the issues.
Right. Look, there is a bit of reckoning. I don't know to what extent right now it exists and how long it will exist. But there is a bit of reckoning for the left. We've seen the response from the left and the leftist media. But in terms of Democrats in office, and specifically for the case of Senate confirmation in the Senate.
It won't be the House.
It won't be the House. Exactly. Yeah. And so in the Senate, I suspect there is and we'll find out to what extent and how long it lasts, but there is a reckoning from the results of the election. When there is a mandate sent by the American people, that's what you see. The party that doesn't win has to lick their wounds, but beyond that has to understand that if you're going to win elections going forward, there has to be at least a little cooperation. I expect zero. My expectations are on the ground. My bar is very low, in terms of, what I expect, or I guess very high. And that's typically what has happened. Then again, it's Donald Trump. And it could be just the opposite. We're going to have to fight. They could see it in their mind as we're going to have to fight against him even harder to keep his agenda from happening. Blah, 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 blah. We'll see. I brought up Gallego and his name, in Arizona. Could he be one? He's in a purple state. Could he be one that cooperates a little more with Republicans? Maybe not every time, but on some issues, we'll see. Maybe.
Fetterman.
I was thinking about Fetterman too. Because that's after Casey's loss. So yeah, we'll see.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, coming up here, the Trump picks. In fact, we'll hear from the great interview that Peter Hegseth did with, I don't know when it was, with Ben Shapiro and what they should do with the military.
Yeah,
and it's really,
right.
Once you hear it, you're going to go, oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so maybe he's on Fox on the weekends, talking to cat video. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, you're doing the morning show. I mean, they talk politics, and mostly politics, whatever.
Right,
but they
right.
get into other topics, whatever.
Sure.
And so you look at that and you go, okay, it's just another talking head.
Right.
And that's what the Democrats are going to try to sell you with him.
Right.
He's not just another talking head, and we'll give you a great example coming up following the top of the hour.
Yeah. That's it. Is that and that's part of why we have the Senate confirmation process. I mean, you learn who they are. Sometimes it sounds like the greatest pick in the world, and through the process, it's like, okay, maybe not. In this case, I think there's a lot of stuff for the American people to learn.
And Democrats should like him because he has Newsom hair.
There you go.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. We were talking about Trump and the fact that he has picked Peter Hegseth from Fox News as his Secretary of Defense. And so I didn't know about this till I woke up. So this was at 10 o'clock. So I've been finding as much audio as I can, when I got in here and while doing the show just over the last, 20 minutes or so, trying to find audio of him, of things that are extremely important to him, what he views as his primary objective of what he needs to do with this military.
Yeah.
And then you can decide, you can listen to this and you can say, okay, is this something that we need? Does he understand being in the military for 20 years, but does he understand the military and what's wrong with it? Now, this audio that I'm playing, I did not have when you and I were talking about it right after the bottom. No, we were talking about it last hour. I had not yet found this audio cut. It's an audio cut with Ben Shapiro. I don't know when it was. It really doesn't matter when it was. But he was asked the question, what would you do? What would you do if Trump put you in charge of the military? And here is his answer.
When it comes to the DOD, don't worry about what their nickname was when they were in the military. What was it? Mad Dog, Mad Ass. So as much as I love Donald Trump, that was very much a pitfall of the beginning of his administration. Who are the people that truly believe in America first, that truly believe in unleashing our warfighters, that reject every aspect of DEI, not the whole we do diversity, but we're not really, no. We're out of this whole game. We only want lethality and meritocracy. That's it. And then what's key is not that person. You'll have a figurehead there at DOD that does that. It's the series of dozens of underlings who have to be just as committed and understanding everything that's being peddled and pushed to help recommend everybody that you fire. I mean, mass firings at the general officer. Were you involved in pushing that? Okay, you're fired. Were you involved? And fine, pick 5 or 6 symbolic firings of generals. Well, guess what happens at some level there? The whole incentive structure changes for these. They're politicians wearing camouflage at many levels at that level. They're going to start to return back, I would think, for many of them, to what they really were supposed to be doing in the first place. Oh, the incentive is having more ammo and more training, not more diversity trainings. How about we do that? I do think it's the type of institution that can turn differently than, say, a Department of Education, which we should just get rid of completely. Or if you weren't going to get rid of, you couldn't pull the roots out fast enough or hard enough. Because I think the core of that Pentagon would be with all of those moves.
That's a great point at the end when he talks about, look, you can't reform the Department of Education.
Right.
There's a great point because everybody is in on it.
Yeah.
Everybody agrees with it.
The nature of that department.
The nature
is
of that
the
teachers' unions,
Right.
everything.
Right.
Everything has the exact same mindset.
Right.
And he makes a great point that what he said was the majority of the military doesn't agree with this, with the DEI and CRT, critical race theory.
Right.
They don't agree with any of this.
No.
So this is being pushed on them. And when he said, there's only two things you want in the military, basically a lethal force. What was it? Lethal force. What was the other one? Oh, and meritocracy. That's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else matters.
Right.
Lethal, meritocracy. That's it.
Yep.
And I don't know of one thing he said there that I disagree with at all. At all. None of it. It's exactly what you have to have in the military. Because in the military, if you make a mistake, people get killed. Objectives, military objectives and the goals are not reached. And that means people get killed. And that means the United States is less secure.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yeah. Well, and, because DEI is really questions, because of DEI, you have to question every move, every word out of everyone's mouth at every moment, which has you hesitating, not only hesitating, you have to stop everything in order to speak correctly. The military has its own language. And you may not like it. You may not know of it. You may not fully appreciate it, but it's required to get the job done. There's a process. There is a very specific purpose for that. And every position in the military is included without exception. You can't, there isn't, this is what drove us nuts. Not just during the Biden years, during the Obama years. Why are they going around talking about climate change and other things when that's not the concern? Not their concern at all.
Yeah, when the Pentagon comes out and says the biggest
Big
threat
threat.
facing us is climate change, you're fired.
Yeah, you're done. See ya.
I know it wouldn't happen, but in my mind, my passion says you're not only fired, you're court-martialed.
Yeah.
You lose your pension.
Right.
You throw out that kind of crap.
That's garbage. That is garbage. Yeah. It is absolutely garbage. And
understand, remember, that's what was said during the Obama and during the Obama and Biden administrations.
Exactly.
That climate change is the number one threat the Pentagon is looking at.
Right.
That's completely and totally insane, which is why you need people that are going to come in and be direct.
Right.
And he needs to say exactly what he said, in front of the Senate and dare any Democrat senator to actually challenge him on that.
Yeah. That's another thing, too. In consideration, I'm sure, in choosing these nominees, there has to be the consideration of, the first hurdle is going to be that Senate confirmation process. And they can demonstrate in that process who they are. And also demonstrate and not back down from exactly what the role is in each of those positions in the cabinet. And I'm looking forward to it, actually. It may be the first time that the Senate confirmation process actually has my attention in a way that's inspiring. Because I think so far that the picks for his cabinet have been spot on. And there's a reason we have this process, so that the American people can learn who these individuals are. But when we talk meritocracy, that's everything in the position of a defense secretary. It has to be. they're
And
again.
I'm glad he used the term lethal. The only thing that matters is being lethal and meritocracy.
Right.
Nothing else matters in the military. It's that simple.
Right.
End of story.
Yep. That's it. I think Trump's cabinet coming together demonstrates, I said this earlier this week, it demonstrates where the mindset is. It demonstrates the very new, I think, not very new, but an all-new approach for Trump compared to where we were in 2016, because Trump has had clearly a reckoning himself, but so has America. I mean, it has been, if you look at what happened a week ago yesterday, it really was a reckoning.
Wow. It's like, what are you talking about a week ago yesterday?
I know.
It was a week ago yesterday.
It was a week ago yesterday. It's crazy, huh? And it was this reckoning of, okay, this is reality. Well, that hot stove, that burn on that hot stove, when you and I talk about being old, things we've learned, stoves are hot. When you get burned by that stove and then all of a sudden they're turning the stove up on the left at every turn, you realize, we can't go this direction. We can't keep going down this road. And I really believe it was a reckoning, and I think we're seeing that play out here in these choices for these nominees, for his cabinet, and also for his staff. I think Radcliffe for CIA director. He was director of national intelligence before, and I think he's highly qualified. There's another thing. You and I have talked about it. It was said that during the Obama years that the intel was changing before it got to the top, before it went across Obama's desk. Somebody's got to explain why that would happen. The commander-in-chief has to know everything all of the intel officers in the CIA know. You also got to look at the rot that may, and I don't know how extensive it is, but there is rot in the intel community. There has to be a new tone that is set, both in Department of Justice and the intel community. You will not carry out your agenda through this position. And we're going to make sure that no one gets away with that. This has to be a clean sweep. I don't know if they get it all done, but that has to be the effort every single day. This whole idea of imagery. How the left wants America to be perceived. Look, if you look at Trump's agenda, what is he talking about? He's talking about not sending a massive amount of troops to war, but certainly being strong. And you talk about a massive economy, which everyone else in the world benefits from. There is an effect globally when the U.S. is doing everything right on the economy. That's just the way it is. And so, the left was always worried about this and this and that. And, well, Obama did the apology tour. It was the first thing he did as president. I make zero apologies for being an American and for our country. Zero. It's and no one should make apologies. Mistakes. There have been plenty of mistakes every single day. I see plenty of room for improvement. And Donald Trump, again, that's the whole idea of MAGA, make America great again. Let's get back to what we do best. When we expand the wealth, when we're strong in terms of national defense and the economy, everybody in the world benefits from that, with the exception of maybe our enemy.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF.
Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators with authority generally have two options when it comes to sourcing freight. Brokers on the spot market or directly from the source, the shipper. As any trucker with relatively recent experience with spot freight knows, the highs of working the load boards can be really high. On the other side of that coin, however, when the market flips in favor of shippers, it can be tough to keep your business afloat working with brokers. The smallest carriers with direct customers, however, can hang on through tough times or even prosper as long as demand for their customers' product remains at least somewhat stable. Owner-operators in it for the long haul make direct business with customers a principal goal. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let's go to David in Wilmington, North Carolina, about Trump's picks. Hi, David. You're on Red Eye Radio.
Hello. Thank you. So Eric's next book should be Why the World Needs MAGA. What a speech. I love his view on things. Passionate. I want to say, Michael, quick point before I talk about the military, and it'll be brief. A few years ago, I called in talking about identity politics and Trump dividing America. I observed during Obama's term that his use of identity politics divided America. And by the time Trump came along, the division was thick. Yeah. And I felt it in the office. It was terrible. Well, about the military, DEI really is a fly in the ointment. It's poison. Effective killing machine, yes. Meritocracy implies excellence for individuals to strive. But anything to do with race or ethnicity in the military is poison. It's not part of the mission, but it's implied that a unit is cohesive. Men rely upon men. They don't care whether they're Hispanic or French Canadian or WASP, and that's the beauty of it. It flies in the face of racism, and because you have a mission, and ethnicity makes no difference among men, and they quickly drop their racism for the most part. And in recognizing race in the military has no place, and it's dangerous. It destroys the fabric of unity in a unit. It's insane, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you, David.
You covered it there, especially at the end. It's insane.
It really is. It is not only counterproductive; it's counterintuitive. And you think about there has to be in military part of the cohesion. That is required. There has to be an intuitive sense among all ranks from top to bottom, because that anticipation helps you to be prepared in whatever situation you're in. It could be making what you would call a simple decision stateside in non-wartime or in the field, in the battlefield. There has to be that cohesion requires everyone from the bottom up and the top down to be intuitive.
Well, think about it. I mean, whether it's a military unit you're trying to build the cohesive structure with, or a football team, or whatever, a group of people together that you're trying to bring together.
Yeah.
And, okay, we need to bring you together now. Listen, in bringing you together, we need to talk about DEI and about, all you people there with this particular color skin, you're privileged and you're culturally racist to the point that all society must be set up to fight against your racism. Right. Now let's build that cohesive unit together. Can we please?
Exactly. That's a perfect, because that would be the speech from a DEI approach.
Right. Well, they may use complicated words that nobody understands that they've made up.
Yeah. Right.
So you're like, what the hell are they talking about?
Right.
I don't know, but I think they're calling me a racist.
Right. Exactly.
And in calling me a racist, the next thing is how we need to build a cohesive unit based on the fact that whatever people with this particular color skin are culturally racist to the point where it's almost part of their DNA.
Right.
And so the unit must be set up assuming that people with that particular skin color think this particular way, and you can't change them.
Yeah. As David points out, I'm a military brat. I didn't serve. My father did, and we lived on base about half the time growing up. And as he points out, people from all backgrounds, skin colors, ethnicities, and it just wasn't present. It wasn't an issue at all. It was, and you understood too, for us kids, that, what the role of your parents were, what the role of the military is. That's ingrained in you. I was born on an Air Force base. And so, they want to come in on the left and separate everybody in a situation where you can't. You need cohesion.
Well,
it's required.
I do think brat does help define you.
Thank you. I wear it proudly.
This is not your safe place. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, wow. 90 minutes through, I'm like, where did this go?
Right. Yeah, and there's, by the way, this is one of the busiest transition periods after an election, presidential election, that I can remember. And I like that. I like that approach. Clearly, with what's going on with the incoming administration, there is a lot of thought. You can see, look, they're going to hit the ground running. They're already making decisions. These are things that everybody, I think, should be encouraged by. But you see that from Trump and Trump's team, that there wasn't, if you think about it, there really wasn't, I've said quite often, he doesn't flinch. There wasn't any flinching after the election. There wasn't any stopping. The same momentum that got them to and through Election Day is being carried through now in this transition, and that's encouraging. Very encouraging. I like to see that. We'll see where it goes on the number of. Alina Habba, by the way, is the rumor for press secretary at the White House. At one time lawyer for Trump. She would be, I think she'd do a great job. We'll see. She's actually spoken on it and said, she would be certainly consider taking that job. So we'll see.
I guess you can't say she would be better than Karine Jean-Pierre because that standard would be way too low.
Yeah, you could say pretty much anybody would be better than Karine Jean-Pierre. I love the Tucker Carlson answer. No, you probably need someone in there that doesn't hate the media.
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday.
I love that. But
people have suggested me, but no, you need somebody in there that doesn't hate the media.
Right. Yeah.
And people would know that I hate the media.
And one of the things that, one of the great things that you saw with Sarah Huckabee Sanders is she didn't flinch. Ever. And Trump doesn't flinch, and anyone in that role can't flinch.
Do you remember when she made the pies?
Yes, I love that. I love that. I was having that conversation just the other day with a friend. That was that to me was perfect. It was a perfect response to that whole thing because they were accusing her of, staging a picture or something on social media. You don't really bake. Wow. It's, the left really can't, they can't get away from their identity politics. But, I think when all is said and done, and we'll see who I don't know that Trump has said anything about press secretary as of yet, but that rumor has been floated. Mike Huckabee is nominated for U.S. ambassador to Israel. That's the father of the aforementioned Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And, we're going to, one of the things that we know is that Trump is a strong supporter of Israel. And unlike the current administration, Trump was key to choking out Iran to make sure they could not fund Hamas and Hezbollah. And you see, of course, when Biden came in, reversed those sanctions and allowed Iran back into the oil game. That funding allows them to build their massive armies of terrorists around the world to attack. And that's exactly how Hamas was empowered to do that. That's actually where the funding comes from. And that needs to end. And I think there's a very clear and loud message in terms of our strongest ally in the Middle East that we will be there to make sure that the enemy is not capable. In fact, hopefully is gone.
We need to sort of, I think, after, a week and a day ago, reset the table, understand what the Democrats are going to do. They're going to try to get loud again.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get loud. I mean, you already saw Goldman out there, going after Peter Hegseth yesterday.
Yeah.
Fox News reporter, totally unqualified. And it's going to get loud on all of these things, but understand what it's going to get loud about. And this is where, and I think the incoming Trump administration is prepared for it. And if the Senate leadership and the House leadership isn't prepared for it, then they all better be fired. I think they are, though.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
What are the Democrats going to be screaming about? Things that the American public doesn't agree with.
Right. Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Yeah.
We know where the American public stands now. These things aren't hypotheticals anymore. And who was it? Was it Representative Torres, or who was it that came out and said, look, I got to go find the story yesterday. It was a Democrat who said it. You can't come out screaming and yelling about what's going to happen with deportations if you're a Democrat.
Right.
You cannot come out screaming. You've lost this.
Right.
And this was a Democrat saying it. I saw the story yesterday. I just can't remember who it is. Just popped into my mind. But that's on every issue. On every issue. For example, if Peter becomes the head of the Department of Defense, or during the Senate hearings, if he talks about what he just talked about, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
And he was talking about more than that, too. He was talking about, our military, and he just said, in every single war game against China that the Pentagon holds, China wins.
Right. Yep.
And he said, with their missiles that they have, he said, we're trying to project power with our aircraft carriers. And he said, but if 15 of those China's missiles can take out all of our aircraft carriers in the first 20 minutes, what the hell good are they? What are we doing? What is the goal? What is our mission? He goes, we're 10 years behind. So it's not just on the woke stuff and everything else. It's, what are we actually doing? And who in the civilian, that actually is looking at what we face today, taking the politics out of it, taking the if you wish to call it the military-industrial complex, which I would call the relationship between the Pentagon and suppliers, and again, all right, we're making this particular armament or vehicle or airplane or whatever.
Right.
And so we've been making it, and so we're going to spend a ton of money to push our senator to push for something in that system where it's okay, the companies themselves are giving a tremendous amount of money back to politicians that will keep them producing their particular, military object. and it's not necessarily what is actually needed, or it's 10 years behind, and we need to look at who are our enemies, who are we fighting. If you're saying, well, we need to project authority, well, that's not if we need to project military authority by having all the aircraft carriers that we have. I'm not saying having the aircraft carriers is wrong, but if you're putting the majority into that and not using the technology to immediately take out China, Russia, North Korea, anyone in the Middle East that needs to be taken out, I look at those four things, or whatever, Afghanistan, if you look at that as, if you're not focused on that as a primary deterrent, and these are the things that he's bringing up, boom. So I think he's going to go in there and communicate effectively what needs to be heard by the people of the United States. And the only thing that the Democrats have is to promote the same things that America just rejected. And they did reject it.
Right.
And if you look at the numbers on the polling, the things that they disagree with the Democrats on, the public thinks Democrats are insane on this stuff.
Yeah. It really is. The lack of self-awareness is not going to serve the left well, because we talk about, and we played and had some fun with the liberal media reaction. The liberal media, the activists in those on those panels, and their reaction and meltdown was entertaining. But Democrats who are in power, as we roll into this next phase with a new administration and new Senate, and start this new session of Congress in the House, it is going to, one of the things, again, that is going to be lost on, I think, far too many of these Democrats in elected office is going to be that, lack of self-awareness effect. They're going to still play the game that got them the loss. They're still going to be playing the same, playbook. And how could you, after reviewing the entire season, not go back and say, hey, we got to come in and we got to rewrite our playbook? You've been asking effectively that question for years, but they won't. I'm with you. I think it's going to be, Goldman is one example, but it's going to be more and more of them feeling like that this is the battle that will get them back to a win in 28 or maybe at the midterm. And for now, that's not the case. It isn't the case. This is what the American people chose. This is what they want. This is the direction. This is what they don't approve of. And these are the things they do approve of. And if you don't see that, it's likely that you're in a very, very safe district if you're in the House and you're just, someone sent you to be the barking dog. I don't know what is going to get you the win, but that certainly isn't going to get you the next win.
On all these issues, you and I have talked about how deep the rot is inside, whether it's the intelligence agencies, whether it's the intelligence agencies, whether it's the Department of Justice, whether it's the Department of Defense. The rot is across the board to the point where, when you look at the Department of Education, you look and you go, well, the rot is just all through that.
Yeah.
Because the mindset is completely all the same and they don't want to change.
Right.
The Pentagon, you probably have a ton of people, as Hegseth said, that don't agree with what's going on, where it's different in the Department of Education. But not only, the question is, if you can't get rid of the rot in 4 years, what do you do? Well, that's the second thing that you need to do. The second thing is do whatever you can to get rid of the rot. Or the first thing is. The second thing is to educate the public and keep pounding the fact that the Democrats want the rot in the government to continue.
Right.
And they want these policies to continue. And so you need extremely, I think, coherent arguments and people to make those arguments, in your cabinet that are going to be, and your surrogates that are going to be out there on the Sunday morning news shows. And not that people in a great deal watch the Sunday morning news shows, but great viral moments, are on social media.
Right.
And that's what drives it.
Well, and it's a great point, because this is something that, first of all, the Republican Party hasn't had in terms of surrogates that are effective in getting the message out. But Trump in his first term didn't have that in his own cabinet and on his own staff, with the exception of Sarah Huckabee Sanders. A few exceptions to that rule, he didn't have the strong surrogates that he has now that have been in place for, this campaign and now are going to be in place in this incoming administration. And that's going to be required. I'm with you. You've got to get the word out. You've got to convince the American people over and over and over. And that requires nonstop campaigning by capable surrogates.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome, and good morning. So, really, I mean, that's the dual, I think, mission of anybody who's a surrogate or on the cabinet of President Trump is not only because that's the worry. Can you actually rid the nation of the rot?
Right. Yeah.
Because when you look at it, you're saying, okay, even if they do it, the world and industry will look at it and say, but it's only 4 years, and if it doesn't work, the Democrats are back in power doing the same thing.
Right.
So what you need to communicate every single time you can, which is one of the reasons you need excellent communicators that are out there saying they're still promoting the same insane ideas. We're trying to do the best. We're trying to do it, and the Democrats are holding us up at every single point.
Yep.
And when they vote against something, if you can't get something through, you need to identify the people that are doing that and market and campaign against them, especially when you have all these issues where the public looks at the Democrats and go, they're crazy. You're talking 60 to 65% of the American public agrees with the Republicans on it. You have to use it. It's not just about the daily work you have to do to get rid of the rot. You've got to market for 4 years from now also.
Exactly.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We are Red Eye Radio.
Yes, we are.
Hi, good morning.
Hello.
All right, so I do like the video that's out there that is from the scene from the movie Office Space. And if you know the movie Office Space, you know the scene I'm talking. Well,
yeah.
If you know the movie Office Space, you know everything about the movie.
Yeah.
Because people who have watched Office Space, especially if you've ever worked in an office before, know probably the vast majority of the lines in it. But it is the scene where the consultants, the Bobs, are interviewing. What's the guy that they fire first? I can't think of his name. Mikowski or whatever his name was.
Yeah.
And it's the two Bobs, but their heads are superimposed with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah.
And it's the Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah.
The first meeting.
Yeah, I love it.
And they're both looking and their heads are tilted just like the Bobs. It goes, what is it you say you do here?
Yeah, I love it. By the way, I also love the fact that Department of Government Efficiency, the acronym is Doge, as in Dogecoin, as in something Elon Musk is. I don't know. It's hard to know if he's a troll or a true believer. I don't know. But it's something he's been aligned with for a long, long time. So everyone on social media, of course, pointed that out right away. Department of Government Efficiency. But you look at those things of coming in and you know, a couple of guys who have experience in the private sector. The left hates it when you point out the efficiencies that Elon Musk created after he bought Twitter. You know, most of the staff, boom, gone. And everything seems to be operating fine, at least for now, and has been for a while. But government efficiency, you know, a couple of guys from the private sector looking at it, and I look at it as a couple of taxpayers looking at it, right? Saying, hey, what are these roles? And I mean, it really is like the two Bobs. What would you say your job is? I mean, what do you, and for the American people to have eyes on that, to go over it, you know, go over a ledger, I don't think that's a bad thing. Now, I'm not for creating new bureaucracies unless they can show me where they're creating that great benefit for the taxpayer, and that's the whole idea behind this one. And, you know, I have the wait and see approach. It is going to have an effect. There has to be, we know the cause for it, but there has to be an effect. So
yeah, and how you do it and how you cut it, it's different cutting government than it is even Twitter.
Yes, and it's also not like the movie Dave, where he comes in with a notepad. Remember that? He's sitting in. So what do we have here? And then, like 30 minutes later, he's solved the national debt crisis or the deficit or whatever. It's like, no, it's not going to happen that way. But again, a review of what's going on. In fact, I would kind of hope that Elon Musk would bring in Barry Weiss, Matt Taibbi, Schellenberger. We might get into some problems there.
Well, no, it's going to be interesting. I mean, who do they bring forward to actually go through department to department and say this is wasteful, that's wasteful, that's wasteful,
yeah,
and that's wasteful,
right.
Especially when, remember, he set the goal of $2 trillion a year.
Yeah, right.
I wish them the best, but if they don't reach $2 trillion or even identify what it is and are able to do it, they will be severely mocked by the Democrats.
Right, sure.
When you come up with that type of figure, then you're setting yourself up in a way if you cannot deliver. Now, do I believe that they can through waste eliminate $2 trillion? I highly doubt it.
$2 trillion? No.
When he said $2 trillion, I thought he meant over a 10-year period, because that's normally what it is.
Right.
I go, okay, $200 billion a year. Okay, they could do that. They could do that. What? A third of the budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
By the way, breaking news: Donald Trump and Elon Musk have just announced a plan to sell all of the national parks. So there's that.
Well, that doesn't cut the spending, though.
Well, you know, if we just quit with the foreign aid, and that's not going to get close to $2 trillion either.
Right. So like I said, you know, they've well, I won't say Trump did it. Musk did it, set the standard. So
yeah,
when he said that, but understand though, when you relate to the Bobs, though, you have to have the effective pause.
Yeah.
What is it you say? You do here.
Right.
You got to have that pause.
Right.
You do here.
Yeah.
And then he screams and yells, you know, like in curses and everything else. And then he walks out of the office and you hear the Trump voice, "You're fired."
Yeah, exactly.
Now, this story I find interesting because it has a little bit of legs here. Biden White House steams over suggestion that he would gift Harris an unearned presidency. Remember when Jamal Simmons, Harris's former communications director, suggested over the weekend that Biden might be able to make up for past mistakes and salvage his legacy to some degree by resigning now and allowing the vice president to step in to a new role as the nation's first female president for the next 2 months.
Such a stupid idea.
I know. He said, yeah, but that's why we can have fun with it.
Exactly.
Joe Biden has been a phenomenal president. He's lived up to so many of the promises that he's made. There's one promise left that he can still fulfill, being a transitional figure. He could resign the presidency in the next 30 days, make Kamala Harris the president of the United States. He could absolve her from having to oversee the January 6th transition of her own defeat. The White House has yet to comment on Simmons' proposal, but the idea of Biden stepping aside evoked mixed emotions from White House officials who spoke to the Washington Examiner on it. Multiple senior White House officials said they doubted that Biden would consider leaving office early, with one senior official noting that the president would not go out of his way to gift the vice president an honor that she actually didn't earn. Mm-hmm. When I first saw this, I went, wow, are they remaking the movie Rudy, except doing it on a presidential level?
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, you see the photos, you see the videos of Joe Biden and Harris, 2 days ago?
Yeah.
Not looking at each other.
Right. Yeah.
Not even talking to each other.
Right. Yeah.
And Pete Ducey brought it up, and Karine Jean-Pierre, what are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, they like each other. I don't know what you're talking about. Why did you bring that up? How dare you bring that up? I'm like,
yeah.
However, one former senior White House official doesn't see President Biden going for it. A decision from Biden to elevate Harris in the final months of the administration might help unify the Democratic Party ahead of 4 years of Trump governance. I think we're all still reeling. There's a lot of finger pointing, and this might serve to help cool heads and regroup, but I don't think it's going to happen. Another current senior White House official, though, blatantly disputed the healing factor a two-month Harris presidency might have on the party. Quote, there's a sense that we tried to jam Vice President Harris down the voters' throats instead of hold an open primary, that person assessed. This certainly wouldn't make that feeling go away. Oh, my. I'm sitting there thinking, the scene in Rudy, which never happened, by the way, where all the players come in and put the jersey on the coaches.
Yeah.
The desk and but that's what I thought when I heard this. I go, what is this? Rudy?
Yeah, it's it's interesting to watch. It really is. But this is the problem when you have someone who, in this case, Biden started by picking a really bad candidate for vice president. It was the wrong pick with Kamala in the first place. But there wasn't that cohesion. You could say the same about Trump and Mike Pence. I mean, they weren't the same individual. They had, I think they agreed on a number of things, but I think you have a greater reliance in Trump and J.D. Vance. And I think that was one of the indications of at least one of the reckonings that Trump had along the way. But you see this, and Biden cared nothing about her qualifications. And if you look at the, electability of someone, that's who you want on your ticket with you, right? I mean, J.D. Vance was and coming in, J.D. Vance had to prove himself. Everybody was saying, well, we don't know. We don't. By the end of it, it's like, whoa, great pick. Because a great surrogate. But Trump is a very different individual than Joe Biden. Trump carries the weight and momentum. But J.D. Vance is a great surrogate in that regard. And you see it. A free thinker, individual. He is somebody who has promoted the ideas effectively time and time again. He admitted this. He picked Kamala Harris based on her skin color, the fact that she was a black woman. That's what he said. I'm going to pick a black woman. It will be a black woman, and that's what he said he was going to do.
And the Democrats don't know who to blame. We can help you here because we want to help.
It's our job to help.
You know,
Democrats.
we had a few calls when we were laughing at the women, the Harris supporters that said they weren't going to have sex anymore.
Yes.
You know, with men, they're not going to have sex. And by the way, you know, when you think about it, you know, they're saying they're not going to have sex with men and they're going to be celibate. Well, that would be an interesting thing, you know, to be celibate, and maybe you should meet men, get to know them, build a relationship on the common values that you have, and not just race, you know, into bed with somebody, and you know, maybe have a you know, a relationship built on trust and respect, and not be so anxious to just jump into bed with every man, because that's the first thing that you came out with when your candidate lost. So just an idea there.
Yeah,
I mean, just a
to float something new that nobody has ever even thought of.
right, you know, and
Certainly on the left, maybe they haven't thought of it in a generation or two.
oh my God.
I mean, when your thought is, when your reaction is that, it's like, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. What's going on with your relationships?
Right. So
why is it, and how many people are you having sex with anyway?
So we thought we might help all those depressed Democrats, because you're looking for somebody to blame. Blame yourselves and your embracing of DEI, because that's what got you there.
Yeah.
Biden picked someone, and he stated before he even told you he was going to pick, it's going to be a black woman.
Right.
He instituted DEI.
Yep.
You got burned
Yep.
because of DEI. You want to blame something? It's your obsession and your approval of DEI. And don't blame Biden. Blame yourself. He did exactly what you wanted him to do.
Yep.
And then it blew up in your face. You're to blame. Now, I hope that makes you feel better.
Look,
Now that we've identified who's to blame. You.
it's your fault.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks for being here. You know, I'm just reading here, Republican senators hold leader candidate forum hours before consequential vote. And they're talking about, okay, should it be Scott, or should it be Thune, or should it be Cornyn, right? Those are the three names that are thrown out there.
Yeah.
You know something that needs to change in the Senate? The Senate leadership needs to be, and we'll see where we'll see where the House goes, but they need to be, the image of them has to be less wimpy, or less, what we're going to do.
Yeah. Right.
I don't need any more McConnell speeches.
I don't need that, because it's a holdover from, Boehner.
Boehner.
Over in the House.
I don't like messy.
I know we don't like messy. Yeah, we know.
There are critical things happening in this country that have never happened before. When you see the lawfare and the attempt by Democrats to make this a banana republic, the weaponization of government. You need to have, whoever it ends up being, they need to be aboard. If you have your minor differences here and there, fine, but you've got to be aboard. There is nothing. The major points, because we hear, the conservative movement is dead. No, it's not.
No.
And what? The Senate's been fiscal conservatives?
Right.
So unless you've been a fiscal conservative, shut up.
Right.
And most of the Senate has not been fiscal conservatives.
Right.
So let's not play this pretend game, because when you look at it, when you talk about stopping the weaponization of government, you should agree with Trump completely on that. When you see what they are attempting to do, whether they succeed or not, Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, and trying to make government more efficient, you should be behind that. There's nothing not conservative about that.
Right.
I don't want to hear this excuse from the Senate anymore. Well, these things, Trump's not a true conservative. He may not be in some issues, but on these he is. On the major issues that exist out there, which would be the border, which would be, and so let me just go back to the border for a second. So I don't need any more, well, we need to have the comprehensive. No, we need to shut the border down, and then we figure out what we're going to do in legal immigration. But we don't need to sit there and say, all right, we need comprehensive immigration reform that'll let just 5,000 people across a day.
Right.
We don't need that. We need to close the border and then go back. We have a legal immigration system. Go back and do that. If we need to accelerate legal immigration for workers, then when that comes, the country will demand it, and we do that.
Right. We're not there yet.
But I don't want to hear this. I'm sick and tired of the Senate leadership, irrespective of who it might be, whether I agree with them on most issues or not. I don't like this. We're the Senate, and therefore we are the
upper chamber.
We're the upper chamber, and we are the ones that look at every. We know what the issues are. You don't have to explain them. The issues are absolutely crystal clear.
Yep.
Well, we're the one. We're going to ponder on this a little bit, and we're going to grapple. We're the grappling body of the the grappling body.
Yeah.
We're the grappling body of the bicameral legislature. Don't give me that. And that's I need the Senate to stop pretending that they are somehow above the entire fray. No, you're in the middle of this political war, and you're in the middle of this political war to stop the weaponization of government, to stop the insanity at the border, to ensure that we have a lethal fighting force that runs on meritocracy.
Yep.
These aren't things you need to ponder.
Right.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. Also, Mike Huckabee ambassador to Israel.
Right.
Good. It him off selling the snake oil of his diabetes kit on late night TV.
Mm-hmm.
Good God.
Yeah.
I saw that and I just shook my head going, stop it.
Right. Well, and it is, it will be interesting to see what the message is. As ambassador, you're serving the president. You're serving the commander in chief.
No, I think it'd be fine.
I think he'll be fine in that.
He'll be fine.
But really, the ambassador to Israel will be Donald Trump. I mean, if you think about it, in this case, because of where Israel is right now, what's going on with Israel right now. And then, I really think if you look at Secretary of State Rubio, a lot of people asking, by the way, what happens in Florida. Basically, the governor of Florida, DeSantis, will appoint someone, but there will be a special election in 2026. A lot of names have come up, including Laura Trump, as possible appointments, and we'll see what happens with what Governor DeSantis decides to do there. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But clearly, in assembling here these names and these nominees for cabinet positions, and then the staffing there at the White House, it's coming together as a good team. And I really have confidence that Susie Wiles is a big part of that. I think in what she has done for the campaign, but also, again, it's also I believe, what Trump has learned along the way. He talked about earlier this year I hired some people that weren't great, and basically that was his mea culpa, if you will, in a situation like that. I made the wrong decisions. And there has to be a, greater thought put into it, but not just any reckoning that he has had or a series of reckonings along the way, but it's also what has happened as a result of the election and the turnout and the shift, the momentum that went his way. That's unprecedented. That kind of comeback we've never seen.
No.
And that it's in and of itself sets the tone for the incoming administration. For anybody, if you're, as long as you're not clueless, and I don't believe any of these names are that we're talking about in terms of who might be the part of his cabinet. So I think these people are fully aware of what the American people want. And it will be interesting to see it come together. We talked about how little time you have. People are already talking about the midterm. You don't want to give the advantage at all to the Democrats. It's going to be imperative to maintain the House and the Senate and at the midterm, because 4 years, even if you have a full 4 years, that's not a lot of time. And it appears they know that. It appears that they're well aware of the clock based on how quickly they're moving right now. And I think that's a good thing. I think for me, it's encouraging. And hopefully they'll get a lot done.
Well, there are a lot of unknowns. And it's, we know one thing, though. Trump is not as toxic, and neither is the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because that's who he leads. And it's also the Republican Party that has those core beliefs on the issues that the majority agree with.
Yeah.
And that's why we said earlier, they've got two things to do: push through legislation, but also continually educate, and don't defend, attack.
Yeah, right.
And the other thing I think, and they've never really followed us on this, even though the public is starting to understand it, and so are some Democrats coming out now and talking about how identity politics is killing them. The Republican Party needs to open the door and let it all out and attack the Democrats big time, not just by saying identity politics, but the racism of identity politics.
Yep.
Which includes the DEI, the critical race theory. They need to attack big time. There is not one thing I can think of where the Republicans, should ever be on the defensive on racism anymore. None.
Nope. No.
The Democrats sit there and go, what's going on? How come Hispanics and blacks are moving towards the Republicans, and even women. Women are even moving towards the Republicans. How can this happen when they're racist and misogynist? Well, they're not.
Right.
They figured out you are.
Exactly.
And so it's time to really take that, because that's the one thing that Democrats still believe they have. They're wondering whether they still have it.
Mm.
So if they're wondering whether they still have it, that's when you go on the attack. But for years, I've been just so sick and tired and frustrated of Republicans on the defensive on this issue. And you and I have been screaming, why are you on the defensive? Attack!
Exactly.
Identity politics is so clear. And remember, we can go back to 2018. They should have been fully on it in 2018.
Yep.
That's 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Because 2018 is when Tim Ryan ran against Nancy Pelosi and said, we got to stop the identity politics. It was obvious. He saw it was a problem. We cannot be judging people by groups. We need to judge them as individuals. The Republican Party should be full behind it. They could say, look at our staff, look at the people that voted for us, look at the people that support us, and it's across the board. We are a melting pot of people that agree on the same ideas. The Democrats are all about trying to divide and have a victim-oppressor, narrative. And I've heard that more.
Yeah,
I've heard that more now come out. The
right.
victim-oppressor thing that you and I have been talking about for years.
Well, when we break down identity politics, that's the way it has to be broken down to demonstrate. And it's exactly how it played out for the Democrats and will likely continue to play out. But it requires that constant promotion of the ideas on the right. You go on the offensive, but you also promote those ideas. You really are, it really is nonstop campaigning. I mean, it's communications, but you're campaigning for the things on your agenda that are important, that clearly now the majority of voters in America are on board with. We know that. It's official. So take that momentum and you ride with it. You don't let it carry you. You have to use it as leverage. See it as leverage. Because the job isn't done. The job hasn't even begun.
Democrats are at their weakest point right now than I've seen them in a long, long time. And the reason is where they stand on the issues and the racism of identity politics and the misogyny, the absolute misogyny of the radical transgender movement. Don't defend, attack.
Right.
You have Republicans have no reason at all to be on the defensive when it comes to the Democrats when they throw out the accusation of racism, in fact, or racism, misogyny. That's what you hear.
Yeah.
You're seeing it right now.
Yeah.
Every time a Democrat says, well, the party of racism and misogyny win, don't even wait for that. Attack first.
Right.
Attack all the time.
Yep.
Attack, attack, attack. Because people understand it. Democrats understand it.
Yep. They do.
They judge people by groups and not individuals. Everybody understands that's racism.
Yep.
That's where it is right there. You're judging all people by a physical characteristic.
Yep.
That's what you're doing.
Right.
Stop it.
And insisting that they must think a certain way based on that.
Yep.
And, that's where that line has been, I don't know how many years we've been doing this. It seems like a million, but how many times we have said that in order to win elections, you got to bring people together. What brings people together? Well, all the things that make America great. All of the things that we all are proud of in terms of our nation and we're known for around the world. The left needs the chaos. They need you to be divided. You can say, how many times have we said it, and we kind of said it with Kamala, Trump, the great uniter.
Well, he did.
But all of the jokes aside, a week ago yesterday was proof.
Well, as we said, because we had fun with it, Kamaga and everything else. But the fact is, she embraced all the major Trump issues.
She was going to build a wall.
That's how you build. And really, the Republicans should come out. The Republicans, I keep saying Democrats instead of Republicans. The Republicans should come out and say, look, why do you think Kamala crossed over? Why do you think she agreed with Trump on all these issues?
Right.
She doesn't really agree to that. She just knows that's where the public stands. She understands that Trump united this country on the issues.
Right.
And that's where you unite. You've got the Democratic Party that is trying to have more victims every day, and therefore they need more oppressors.
Right.
And as you and I have stated, and it's easy to this isn't a hard concept. Political parties have to unite.
Yep.
And what do you unite on? Our shared values. What are the shared values? How do you project shared values on the legislation that you agree with?
Yep.
It's that simple.
Right.
On the issues
Right.
is where you build it.
Right.
The Democrats are doing the opposite. They keep dividing and dividing and dividing and dividing. They're not trying to unite.
No.
They continue to try. And you saw it after the election. Now, blacks and Hispanics are racist and misogynist.
Mm-hmm.
See?
Yeah.
And so now they're all part of it, and they're uniting the Republican Party.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now the Republican Party is like, okay, I guess we're all racist and misogynist, irrespective of our ethnicity.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't matter. Or our religion.
As we said, they're gonna. It doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter your ethnicity or your background. They're coming after you eventually. Eventually, you're going to be the oppressor. That's what identity politics requires. Because you're creating new victim subgroups every single day. That subgroup has to have a new set of oppressors, and that's exactly how it's developed. This is exactly where we are.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's our calling. I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Coming up on the top of the hour, conservatives abandoned a challenge to Speaker Johnson. It's funny because they were talking about it yesterday, whether they were going to, run somebody against Johnson for Speaker.
Yeah,
and they've decided not to. They're going to have another form of protest. But it's funny because they're talking about, okay, we need to make sure we nominate him as Speaker, as Fox News is saying that Republicans don't have the House yet.
Yeah, they still have it at 216 right now.
Right, and so many others are, and they pretend as if nobody else has called it. It's like, well, a bunch of other people have called it. It's why don't you say why you won't call it?
Right.
What's the difference? When people call it now, a number of the news outlets that have called it were some of the first ones to call it for Trump.
Right.
And they were right.
Yeah. RCP has now called it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
The
other thing we'll get to is diesel motorhome sales are set to be halted in several states at the beginning of the year due to new climate change rules. Motorhome sales are being prevented in California, Washington, Oregon, New York, Massachusetts, and New York if the vehicles do not maintain certain emission requirements. The requirement is all vehicles over 8,500 pounds produce zero emissions.
Yeah. None.
Yeah, you're probably, if you're talking, because at 8,500 pounds, if you're talking about an all-electric Class B RV that has...
yeah, right. Yeah.
Probably a lot of people are going to say, look, we love the lithium-ion batteries and the extra alternator under the hood, because we can run our, everything overnight.
But we can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
We're camping at home.
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA. We are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. Welcome. Thanks for being here. All right. I got this audio to play here.
Okay, what do you got?
So much audio.
Okay.
You heard the Democrats going crazy at Democrat Congressman Seth Moulton, who went after the radical transgender movement and said he doesn't want boys playing against girls, and he just got, eviscerated for it. Here he attempts to defend but clarify the arguments and then make a stupid accusation of Trump all in the same thing, all in the same way.
Yeah.
But it is the indication that they know they're getting killed on the issues.
Yeah.
And this was an interview that he did on MSNBC. All right, here we go.
Right.
Democrats are certainly grappling with the way forward. And after the loss Tuesday, you are one of the lawmakers who've said that Democrats are out of touch with the American people, saying they spend way too much time trying not to offend anyone rather than being brutally honest about the challenges many Americans face. Then as part of that argument, you told the New York Times, quote, I have 2 little girls. I don't want them getting run over on a playing field by a male or formerly male athlete. But as a Democrat, I'm supposed to be afraid to say that. I know that you have put out a follow-up statement. I do want to give you a chance to explain your comments because you know they have faced backlash. So you've got the floor.
Sure. No, thank you, Alex, very much. And look, I was just speaking authentically as a dad about one of many issues where I think we're just out of touch with the majority of voters. And I stand by my position. You know, maybe I didn't get all the words exactly right. But the point is that the backlash I've received proves my point that we can't even have these discussions as a party. I mean, the chairman of the Massachusetts Democratic Party wouldn't even return my phone call. And we've got to be able to have these debates. But instead, we have a wing of our party that shames us, that tries to cancel people who even bring up these difficult topics, and frankly, shames voters. This is the same group of people who told us to defund the police, who told us that there wasn't a problem at the southern border, who told us that inflation was transient, whatever that means, and who told us that Biden was just fine. And they're out of touch with voters. If we just listen to voters on all of these issues, they were telling us the truth. So we've got to be willing to have these debates. I'm willing to have my mind changed. In fact, I've had some really good conversations in just the last few days with LGBTQ advocates and others, some of whom agree with me, others who don't, but are willing to engage in a thoughtful discussion rather than just trying to cancel one person or another. But we've got to have these debates now to come up with a new strategy for the party, a winning strategy, so that come January, we can be totally united to defeat the Trump agenda, which we know that Trump is going to attack the rights of minorities in this country, including trans people.
How?
Yeah.
He never explains it.
Yeah.
How? That's a lie. So what he's saying is we're wrong on the issues, but we still need to criticize Trump for where we're wrong on the issues.
Right.
And the fact is, you notice he said we need to be where the voters are. Well, where are the voters? The will of the voters. It's not just the will of the voters. The voters are right.
Yeah.
You're wrong.
Right.
Stop it with the, and this is where you need to go right to the heart of the radical transgender movement. And you need to say, and this is where I would attack him and go, excuse me, mind changed on what? You don't want boys playing against girls.
Right.
Now, I'm sure they came after you and said it's transphobic to say that they're boys.
Right.
Because that's the argument.
Yep.
And you and I asked, what does transphobic mean?
Well,
are you afraid?
And it's also, what you hear is an indication that the left can't abandon.
Well, I was going to get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
That this shows you they're not going to move. They're not going to move, which is why you need to pound on them each and every day, because it is the Democrats that actually don't care about trans children.
Yep.
They're the ones that don't care. You need to bring out the child abuse that they wish to allow to happen to confuse kids.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't let them mutilate themselves. You don't do that. By the way, Joe Rogan was talking to somebody. I played the audio cut for you. And they were saying, so we need to let these kids naturally do what they wish to, do and give them all the, and he goes, what are you talking about? Well, they're transgender. Well, if they feel that way, let them feel that way. But why are you giving them hormones? If it's natural, why are you giving them hormones?
Right.
If it's natural, why are you cutting off body parts?
Right.
Guy couldn't answer the question. He was, I don't understand what you're saying. Because they have no argument in it. Again, don't be on the defensive. Attack. We've never backed off 1 second, and it has nothing to do with our compassion. In fact, it has everything to do with our compassion for what the Democrats tell us, that the experts say, that people that say they're trans have a much higher rate of suicide.
Why is mental health not the number one concern?
Right. Democrats don't care about the mental health aspect of it, as they admit there's a mental health aspect to it, a huge mental health aspect. Suicide.
And they call it, for children, treatment.
Yeah.
This
health.
is treatment for them. This is their health. Yes. You're talking about irreversible actions here for children.
And there's nothing controversial about our opinion at all.
No.
And I've stated this. I have no idea how the human mind works.
As a society, it's our job to protect children.
Yeah.
They're not capable of making these decisions. We know this. And yet adults are saying, if you don't let them decide, you're the abuser.
Yeah.
If you don't give the authority to the child, even if you're the parent, you're the abuser.
I have no idea how the human mind works, and neither does 100% of people. You don't really know. There's assumptions, but we don't know. Nobody knows how you wake up one day and say, I'm a female and not a male. Do I believe some of these people believe it? Yeah. Does that make it so? And does it make it where you have to say, well, then you actually really are a female, even though you're a biological male? No. It says, what are your thoughts, and do you need care? You actually need care, which starts with the mental health care if you're talking about suicide. The Democrats don't care. And we know it. You and I remember the Tom Cotton discussion with the professor from Berkeley when he started saying, well, what do you mean? Explain this to me. Well, no, what your line of question is transphobic.
Right.
How are questions transphobic? I'm trying to get an explanation from you. Well, that's transphobic because if transgender people hear you even asking questions about it, they're more likely to commit suicide. What?
Yeah.
Well,
And
then you ought to be pretty damn careful before you start giving irreversible hormone treatments or cutting off private parts of
right,
children.
Of children.
And so don't give me this damn BS that you're the one that cares. You don't give a damn. You don't give a damn if your explanation is you can't ask questions on it because these people may commit suicide even if you ask questions on it. Well, then you're not talking about the mental health aspect. Is there a mental health problem here? Oh, see, right there. You said there's a mental health problem. Well, you implied it by saying they have a much greater susceptibility of committing suicide,
right,
of attempting suicide.
That should be the number one goal of everyone,
right,
to make sure that there's a focus on mental health, and the left doesn't care. And further, they want children to have the authority.
Right. Adults, I don't care. You get to choose what you want to do as an adult. But you don't have a right to insist that I call you with a make-believe pronoun.
Right. No, we're not going to change definition of words. You live your life the way you want to live your life.
Right. Live your life the way
you
live it.
And I'll live my life the way I want to live mine. We're not going to change definition of words.
That's simple. And you can't force me to believe things that aren't scientific.
Right.
And you're not going to do that.
Nope. No, and it's, again, this is what you hear is an indication, a clear indication that the left can't reverse. It doesn't matter what you say. There aren't going to be any moderates. There aren't any moderates in the party for a reason. The mob will come after you. And you know that. You know that full on because this is what you hear. Trying to walk both sides here. Nope. No, you have to abandon that thought completely. You have to move away from all of that completely. But they can't do that. As a Democrat, you can't do that.
Well, it's funny because he pointed out all the lies of the Democrats and then threw in his own lie.
Right.
that Trump is going to take rights away from the LGBTQ and trans.
Right.
What? Right.
Yeah.
What
Where?
right?
Where?
He made it up. So that's the point. They can't even come completely into. You know that he knows it because he just laid it out.
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Right.
Everything that we laid out. He knows it.
He made the argument, and then yet he still went and lied about it.
Right. Because he has to.
Yep.
I can only get away with telling you the truth if I tell a lie about Trump.
Right.
If I end what the truth really is of why we lost the election, and then at the end tag it with the lie about Trump, maybe the left will accept me. Well, then you're a fool if you believe that, because they're not going to accept you.
Yeah.
You're a fool, Congressman Moulton, if you believe that. That's what he was trying to do.
Yeah, right.
Okay, I'll tell the truth here, but then I got to lie over here.
Right.
Because maybe if I lie about Trump, they'll forget about everything else that I said.
They care nothing about, the left cares nothing about you once you have abandoned them, and then you expect people to, I guess he's trying to buy some street cred. I'm listening.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm listening. I'm talking with, and some agree, some disagree, and blah, 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 blah. Bye.
Yeah. I'm willing to have my mind changed.
Yeah. You're not listening because because the loudest set of voices was the collective a week ago yesterday.
Yeah.
And if you didn't hear that, then you won't hear anything.
Where will he be a week from now?
Yeah. Wow.
I was completely wrong. I'm sorry.
Right. My
where,
apologies to this community, that community,
right.
Every community.
Where's the altar?
The community of communities.
Where's the woke altar? I need to bow before the woke altar.
Exactly.
Oh, there it is. Bow down.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I have sinned.
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't sinned. That implies there's a God.
Exactly. Yeah. Sorry. I apologize for saying I sinned.
Yeah, I didn't sin.
I sinned by using the word sin. Oh, I did it again. Zero self-awareness.
I know.
He's dying to say the truth and can't.
Yeah. That's a great point. He
He
knows
laid
what
out
the
the
truth
argument.
is. He laid out, and then he's got to
And then
right.
flushed it down the toilet.
Yeah.
Because, building fear against Trump is job one, and you're going to have to lie to do it. And there you have it. Trying to buy street cred? Sorry. You've already abandoned them. They're not going to have you. Yeah, it might be. I don't know. Will it take a week? Watch for the statement later this morning.
That'll make my day.
If it happens that fast, yes.
It really would make
Yes.
it would make my day. Like I wouldn't. It'd be like noon tomorrow. I see that and it's like,
right.
Oh, he's reversed everything. Can I go on the air now?
I want to start by issuing my apologies to 9 hours of apologies.
And then he has to go through radical retraining.
Yes, of course. Right.
I'm going to enter sensitivity training.
Right. Go call Claire McCaskill and Tim Ryan. They'll tell you how all that works. How dare you?
I am entering mental health care for my
exactly
for my opinions that I hold. Oh my God!
This is a learning moment. This is definitely a learning moment.
Let's see what happens there.
Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. At a roadside inspection, inspectors may ask to see supporting documents. A supporting document is a document generated or received by a motor carrier in the normal course of business that can be used by law enforcement to verify a driver's logs. These documents can include bills of lading, itineraries, schedules, or equivalent documents that indicate the origin and destination of each trip. They can also include dispatch or trip records, expense receipts related to on-duty/not driving periods, including receipts for meals, lodging, and fuel, electronic mobile communication transmitted through a fleet management system, and payroll records, settlement sheets, or equivalent documents that indicate payment to a driver. Drivers using paper logs must also keep toll receipts. Supporting documents must contain the driver's name, carrier assigned identification number or vehicle unit number that can be linked to the driver, the date, the name of the nearest city, town, or village, and the time. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I want to let me get this audio that I had lined up here a moment ago. I want to play this. This is from Michael Schellenberger, and this is, we talk about Peter Hegseth and how the Democrats are going to scream that he's unqualified because he works for Fox. But if you listen, and we played some of his audio earlier where he talked about what has to be done in order to clean up the Department of Defense. I mean, the rot inside of there, the rot of DEI and critical race theory, when the only thing that matters is the fact of having the ultimate lethal force and meritocracy. It's all that matters in the military. He's talked about anybody that, if he was in there, this is before he got in, or before he was nominated, he for the Department of Defense, the defense secretary, he said anybody related to it, anybody who approved it gets fired.
Yeah.
Anybody who went along with it, you get fired. You got to clean out the rot. It's what Michael Schellenberger was talking about, saying we needed Twitter files for the CIA, the FBI, and the DHS. Listen to this here.
Yeah.
Michael Schellenberger, a Democrat, just so people know.
I'm still such a softie. I mean, I want redemption, I want reconciliation, but you can't get that until you get the truth out, until you get some accountability. I don't think we can trust the people that weaponize the government against people like Tulsi Gabbard. I don't think we can trust the people that turn Department of Homeland Security into a censorship operation to censor one side of the political debate, to censor true stories about vaccine side effects. We need the Twitter files for the CIA, for the FBI, for DHS, for every single government agency that's been covering this stuff up for 50 years. It's been 50 years since we had the Church Committee hearings to get to the bottom of CIA abuses of power. We need a Church Committee hearing, 2.0 for all the stuff that's been going on over the last 10 years.
It backs up what I've said the whole time, that I believe that, you saw from Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, Barry Weiss. You saw when the Twitter files all came down, I believe they were terrified what they saw about the Department of Justice and the FBI and the influence on Twitter and the attempt to censor it. I think that terrified. I don't think they ever thought that a modern day government would do what they saw.
Yeah, I agree.
Have a line open. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I still think it's one of the most unreported stories out there when you look at the Twitter files, because when you look at the people that were involved in it, and, Matt Schellenberger Michael Schellenberger has been very vocal on it. Matt Taibbi is. I haven't seen him around lately, though. I haven't just seen him promoting it. Barry Weiss, you see.
Yeah.
But when you talk about, for people that know, Barry Weiss, former New York Times reporter, loyal liberal Democrat, same with Michael Schellenberger, same with Matt Taibbi. These are not Trump supporters. They were the ones that were a part of Twitter files that found all the FBI and Department of Justice involvement and FBI agents as part of the censoring process of Twitter. And I really think that they went in there and I sense that they're more the old school liberals, that they believe in the old school liberal that believed in freedom of speech, not like the new liberal out there and a significant portion of the Democratic Party that doesn't believe in freedom of speech. I think of the headline yesterday. We had talked about it. Representative Jayapal, who came out and said, "Well, no. I'm not for I'm not for the I'm not for nuking the filibuster under Republicans, only Democrats."
Right.
And I'm like, well, yeah, that's like same thing on freedom of speech.
Right.
Well, I'm only against freedom of speech when it comes to Republicans. Democrats should have unlimited freedom of speech.
Right.
This is, that's how they think. But the old school liberal believes in freedom of speech.
Right.
The old school liberals I knew believed in freedom of speech across the board. They don't anymore. But I think that these are old school liberals who saw what was going on, and it scared the hell out of them. And then remember Matt Taibbi. What was it? The IRS came to his door that day?
Yeah.
The day he was testifying?
Yeah.
And you see all this, and I think that terrified them, as it would anybody, because you're like, oh, my God, the United States government is now coming after me. That was a sense of that was the behavior there was to intimidate Matt Taibbi.
Yep.
And remember, he goes, what do you mean? I didn't owe them anything. They owed me.
Yeah.
And then, the IRS does not come to your house if you owe them.
Right. They just show up at your door? No.
No, excuse me. If they owe you, they don't
Right.
come to your. Let me rephrase that.
Yeah,
again.
if they owe you money, right.
And
they don't deliver that check to you.
And so when you talk about the left going, which will go crazy, Fox News host as the head of the Department of Defense, what? You can't have that. But when you hear Peter Hegseth talk, he's absolutely clear about what the problem is in the Department of Defense when it comes to the wokeness, the critical race theory, the DEI, and he wants to get them back. He wants to clean house and have people that care about having a lethal armed force, the most lethal armed force, that's built on meritocracy, and a military that is run looking at the next 10 years and what our challenges and possible enemies are. Now you got Schellenberger coming out, as we just played it before the bottom of the hour, saying we needed Twitter files for the CIA, the FBI, for the Department of Homeland Security, because we need a church committee 2.0 for all the stuff that's been going on the last couple of years. And we do.
Yep.
We do. The rot inside of the Department of Justice. And when I think back and think about those FBI agents, the whistleblowers that put everything on the line to come out and say we were sitting in the parking lot of a school taking down parents' license plate numbers because the parents were livid that the school board was trying to hide that a transgender female, a male, a biological male, sexually assaulted a female student, and they're trying to bury it, and the parents are furious, and the Department of Justice sends FBI agents to take the license plate numbers down of those parents.
Well, and think about, you just touched on it, but if you really stop and consider what it takes to become a whistleblower, because you understand essentially your career's done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is why you don't see more of them. Because for every person that stands up, I believe there are countless others that understand, well, you do as you're told, because if you speak out against it, you're going to get fired.
Threats and intimidation.
Exactly.
Which is against the law.
Exactly. And the whistleblowers technically have that protection, but they also understand it doesn't work that way. It's you're putting your job on the line, your career on the line when you step forward and speak out.
And as the IRS whistleblowers were recently saying, that they're doing everything they can to try to make them quit.
Right.
And making their life a living
which is retaliation.
Yep. And then you see Reading here from Fox, the Federal Emergency Management Agency supervisor fired for instructing subordinates to skip over houses with Trump signs and banners, now says the actions were consistent with agency guidance and were not isolated to her team alone. The supervisor, Marnie Washington, was hired by FEMA after outrage erupted after she instructed disaster relief workers canvassing in Lake Placid, Florida, after Hurricane Milton to avoid homes advertising Trump. That's in quotes.
Yeah.
The Daily Wire was the first to report that government employees told them that at least 20 homes with Trump signs and flags were bypassed from the end of October into November due to the best practices, that's in quote, guidance from Washington. That's from her, not from D.C.
Right.
From her, that's her last name. The houses were skipped over by the workers who wrote messages such as Trump sign no entry per leadership in the government system, per the Daily Wire. On Saturday, FEMA's Administrator of Employee Misconduct, Deanna Criswell, confirmed to Fox News Digital that Washington had been fired and called her actions reprehensible and a clear violation of FEMA's core values and principles to help people regardless of their political situation. A FEMA spokesperson told Fox News on Friday the agency was deeply disturbed by Washington's actions, but insisted it was an isolated incident. Now, she says she spoke on the Roland Martin podcast on Monday, and she said her instructions complied with FEMA protocol to avoid homes determined to be hostile or dangerous to workers. So she's claiming she got it from management.
Right. And it was widespread.
Right. That it was widespread. Now, I did see, who was it? Was it Comer that told them, the Biden administration, you better not hide anything. You better not erase anything.
Right.
Because we're coming after all these records for everything. You know, and so you see Michael Schellenberger saying, my God, we needed Twitter files for the CIA, for the FBI, for DHS. Everything that's happened over the last 4 years, you needed for here. She was making Washington was making the case that the management was doing it based on documented evidence that any home with the Trump sign was hostile to them.
Yeah, right.
Well, you need to provide the evidence. All that evidence should be available then. And she should be able to provide the email. Well, she might not be in the email circuit now. If I got that from management, if I got an email from management telling me that, I'd save that email, wouldn't you?
For my own protection.
Yeah, exactly.
I would think, well, if someone thinks I'm lying, they're going to come after me. And I need to protect myself to, demonstrate to everybody this was protocol. This was set forth by other people than me. I didn't do this on my own. I would definitely want to set that protection in place.
And she said she got political hostility that was encountered by my team when that they just so happened to have a Trump campaign signage. That's a lie.
That's a lie. Yeah, I don't buy that.
I don't buy that either.
I don't buy that. Yeah. Look, there has to be a thorough investigation. And there has to be a very lengthy review of the documents that are on hand and who those documents were sent to and really what the protocol was.
She claimed that her instructions were given after team members had been verbally and physically threatened by hurricane victims with signs in support of the former president. I believe she's lying.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I don't buy that.
Neither do I.
I don't buy that. And look, again, there's a way to get to the truth. You're going to have a very different administration coming in, clearly. There, of course, has to be a concern with wiping all the evidence away. But there has to be an effort to do everything you can to preserve that. I don't know what they do, but certainly it's going to be clear if you walk in and all of a sudden tons of documents are missing and stuff's not there. That's going to be an indication. And there are things about her story that don't add up. But the weaponization of FEMA, that wouldn't shock me.
No, it wouldn't shock me either. No.
That goes right along with every other department on the left where when they're in power, they're going to weaponize everything they have. You're not going to get help. Sorry. She even, talking in that podcast said, even if there wasn't a Trump sign, there would be avoidance of certain houses for certain. I want to know everything. Well, okay, well then what? You mean like an American flag flying? I mean, I don't know. She didn't say that. I'm asking the question. What makes you pickup parked out front? I don't know. What is that? What is it that where was the guidance on that? What was the criteria for this avoidance she's talked about?
Investigation
Yep.
needs to be done on it.
Thorough.
Again. I mean, the rot is so deep everywhere.
Oh.
And you and I talked about this yesterday that, and we had talked about this with going all the way back to Lois Lerner and the IRS, that I'll never forget the day we went, Republicans are looking for a conspiracy. We think it might be a culture, you don't have a direct conspiracy where a boss is telling somebody to do something. I don't know if that's the case here.
Right.
But you and I looked at it and said, no, it's the culture.
It's the culture.
It's the
tone that's set by from the top.
It's a culture of conspiracy,
right?
Which you don't need a leader to tell you. It's just, no, this is what we all do. This is what we all believe.
Right.
The opposition, and it's very easy to do it for 20 years when you're told the opposition wishes to commit a genocide of 6 million people.
And anybody who supports the opposition is a threat.
Right.
And is a threat to your safety. Because that's what's implied here. This avoidance, because you're teaching these FEMA workers, if it's accurate and true, well, you avoid that for a number of reasons. You don't serve those citizens because they're a threat.
Well, they were talking about on The View yesterday. No. If any of your family voted for Trump, you shouldn't have it because he is really evil. I mean, he's a step above.
Right.
It's like, yeah, but you called it Bush Hitler. Because they were brought it up. Well,
exactly.
What about, it's different than George W. Bush. Well, it is now. It wasn't back then.
No.
He was Hitler back then.
Right.
Remember?
Yep.
Nobody was saying, nobody in the Democrat side was saying, no, Bush isn't Hitler.
Nope.
Only when they could use him to his political advantage
exactly.
did they say that.
Right.
That he's not Hitler. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, what is the Department of Government Efficiency? Well, they're actually not a department of the government, by the way, just so people know
right.
that.
Yeah.
They're not a part of the government when they do this, just so people know. Ramaswamy and Musk, when they do this, it won't be it's not an official government function. It is basically guidance and suggestions that they will give to the Office of Management and Budget.
Advisory roles. Yeah, kind of.
Right.
And no real authority.
Well, we'll get into the challenge that's always there. Mm-hmm. You can list. Elon Musk did list. He actually, somebody posted something. He listed some of the ridiculous things. That's what they're going to do. The ridiculous things. Here's what government spends their money on.
Yeah.
Vote on whether you think you should go or not. That's all fine.
Right.
How do you get Congress to vote each and every one of those line items out of there?
What is actionable beyond what they find?
Yep.
This is Red Eye Radio. on Westwood One.